Hi there YouTube viewers, my name is Laura Parchment, and thank you for tuning into my video today. Today we're going to be discussing something that some of you may have had the wish to do but have not had the knowledge to do it. So if you're somebody like me who enjoys playing older games, then the PS2 is probably one of your favorite consoles. However, we all know the difficulties of getting one nowadays, as well as how expensive it can be, and trying to source all the games, and it's a hassle, it's a pain. But what if I told you there's a way to actually do it on your PC, completely for free? That's right, today I'm going to be teaching y'all how to set up a PlayStation 2 emulator on your PC so that you can play your favorite PlayStation 2 games right here on your home setup, and without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Before we go any further though, we need to talk about a quick list of stuff that you're going to need. So what you're going to need is you're going to need yourself your own PC setup, obviously, with a controller, a mouse, and a keyboard. It's very important that you have a controller because a lot of these older PlayStation 2 games were not designed to be played on the keyboard, so unless you want to try and go and rebind every single thing to make it slightly conducive, I wouldn't recommend it. Just get yourself a cheap controller that can hook up through USB, because we're going to be using a software that will help you emulate your controller to be turned into a playable input on your PC. And preferably Windows 64. You can probably do this with other versions as well, but I have experience with Windows, and that's what I'm going to be showing you today. So the first thing you're going to want to need to do is actually, I'll have all the links down below in the description, by the way, that way you can follow them directly one-to-one as I'm doing this video. But the first thing you're going to need is an emulator. Now, an emulator is basically just a set of software that allows you to emulate the PlayStation 2 onto your PC and to read any PlayStation 2 files that you would otherwise put on your computer. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and head to this website, PCSX2. This is an open source emulator that does not come with the BIOS, and it's very important that you understand that. That's why this is actually legal, because this software itself does not have the capability to run the PlayStation. It just has the ability to read the files and use them on a PC. So the first thing you're going to want to do is head over to the download tab. Now what you're going to want to do once you reach this page is you're going to want to try to find either a stable release that matches your version of Windows, which I do not have that because I have Windows 64, sorry, and this is only available for Windows 32. So then you're going to want to go down below and try out the nightly builds if it has what you're looking for. So for me right here, that's going to go ahead and work. It's got the AVX2 QT with the 64-bit. This is the one that I'm going to select. Now do keep in mind that these are updated quite frequently because they are nightly releases. So as you can see, this was updated 4 times in the past day. So just be wary that this may not be the most stable version. You may have to come back and reinstall it later. But if you're lucky like I was, then you'll be able to get one that works just fine. And it should work theoretically just fine, but it might have a bug or two. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this. Okay, so now that we've got our version here, what we're going to need to do is we're also going to need to grab ourselves a BIOS. Now, what is a BIOS? Well, the BIOS is basically the software that makes a PlayStation 2 run, and what makes this website legal is the fact that, or what makes this website legal is the fact that this doesn't actually come with the capability of running PlayStation 2 games. It only comes with the capability of reading them and using them, but not actually running them. So this is going to be basically like your template, and this is going to be what you actually use. Now, you can get these from a variety of different websites. I've used this one. This one has not given me a virus. I can vouch for this one personally. You just want to go ahead and grab yourself the emulator here. All right, so now we've got our BIOS and we've got our emulator as well from here. So then what we're going to need to do is find, well, actually what we can do first is we can go ahead and grab ourselves the Xbox 360 controller emulator. This will allow us to go ahead and use an Xbox 360 controller like a PlayStation 2 game, because Xbox controllers are quite easier to get a hold of than PlayStation controllers, as well as they usually run better and they're usually cheaper. So what you can go ahead and do is find the one that's best for you. So download for, we'll just do all games. That should work just fine. All right, that'll give us Xbox 360 CE. You can also use DS4, which is like the PlayStation 4 controller version of it, but I don't have any experience with that one. I would just recommend using this one if you have an Xbox controller. And if you do need to use a PlayStation controller, there's probably a video on YouTube somewhere of how to set that up. So just look up DS4 and it'll probably help you out. And then lastly, but not least, we need to go ahead and grab ourselves the games, of course. So this is CoolRom.com, and here you can find yourself any PlayStation 2 game just about completely for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find one that I want to play. So let's just say Jack 2. Whoops, I forgot the space. My bad. Jack 2. There we go. So we got a couple different games here. Didn't actually show up. Maybe it's under Jack 2 like that. Aha, there it is. So you're going to want to grab yourself the English version. If you speak English, if you speak another language, then obviously pick your language. But for me, I'm going to grab Jack 2 in English. So then right here, what you would go ahead and do is you would scroll down to the download file, and it's going to give you this downloader. So if you want to set through the downloader this way, this is probably safer, but I don't usually do this just because I find it to be a hassle. So what I would actually recommend you do is go to the alternative download link and just give it a second, and it will go ahead and turn on over to the download. All right, so now it's converted over. We can go ahead and download our file. So this is going to be Jack 2. Now this download's going to take an astronomically huge ass amount of time, so I'm not actually going to do that right now because I already have 2 games that I can actually show you that work already. So what you're going to get from those is you're going to get a, let me see if I can find the actual file themselves. Okay, so it doesn't look like I actually have them, but what's going to happen is whenever you open them up, you're just going to find yourself a couple things in there, and I'll show you what you need here in just a minute. But that's going to conclude all the websites that we need to visit, so let's go ahead and actually work on setting up our emulator. So what I would recommend you do, make yourself a folder on your desktop through new and folder, just name it whatever. I named mine PS2 emulator folder. And then within this folder, what you're going to do is you're going to drag in your different things that you're going to need. So you're going to need your Xbox 360E for your controller, your BIOS, you're going to need that. You don't actually have to unzip this. You just need to drag it over as I've done here. And then in here, all you need to do is take your PCSX2 folder. You're going to go ahead and open this up. I would recommend using WinRAR if you have that. And this is going to give you your actual emulator files. And as you can see, I have a folder here labeled PS2 emulator that actually has all of these files in here. And that's what you're going to basically click and drag into there, extract them however you want to do it. And this will give yourself the actual software that you need. And then from there, all you need to do is click the PCSX exe file, and that will launch your actual emulator. Now, this emulator won't look like this. It'll look a bit vague. So give me just a second, and I'll show you what we're going to go ahead and do with that. Okay, now that you've gone on ahead and got your emulator actually open, you're going to want to go to Settings and BIOS, and from here you're going to want to go ahead and select your BIOS. Now the way that you're going to do this is quite simple. You're going to take the BIOS that you downloaded, which I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and you're going to want to click and drag it into here just so you have it. Or what you can do is you can go ahead and go into the emulator, and you can do this yourself by going under the PS2 emulator and going under BIOS, and then you can drag in your .zip file there. That's what I did. I have it in both locations. That way, in case this ever gets corrupted or anything, I have a backup right here on the main screen right here, so that way I don't have to go and download another one. So if you can do that if you want, you don't have to. It would be easier for you just to go ahead and go into here, but I highly recommend taking that extra step just to make a copy. That way, in case something fucks up, you'll be okay. And then from there, you can just go ahead and go into your BIOS directory. You're going to browse it. So under your PS2 emulator folder and into the BIOS, you're just going to go ahead and hit select folder. It will find the executable. And then from there, you can just go ahead and hit close. This is going to allow your emulator to actually run with games that you're going to import. And from there, it's actually super easy. So all you need to do to get your actual games working is have a centralized folder for them, which is why I recommend, once again, having a folder on your desktop with all of this stuff in it. That way you don't have to go looking all around your computer and within all your different directories to find what you need. So for me, I have Jak and Daxter here, and I have GTA San Andreas. So what you need to do is you're going to grab these, make a folder for them. It'll be easier if you have a folder for everything. And then in here, this is what your downloaded executable will look like, or your downloaded zip file will look like. And then from in there, you'll see this stuff right here. All you need to do is extract the actual ISO file and leave it within that folder. And then what you're going to do is go into Settings, Scan for New Games, and it's not, I don't know why it's not, Add Game Directory. And then from here, all you got to do is go into your emulator folder, find the folders that you have listed, and you're going to go ahead and hit Select Folder. It's going to scan recursively through all of those folders, and it's going to find every game that's visible and every game that's playable. So there we go. We have the emulator properly set up now. All of your stuff should be visible here if you've downloaded the proper BIOS files, the ISO files. And then from there, all we need to do is get our 360 CE set up. So we're going to go ahead and go into the downloads, grab this, and we're going to go ahead and install it like normally, where you would go ahead and run the executable. And if memory serves me correctly, you should already have it installed by downloading it. It should just be a actual thing that you run, if I'm not mistaken. But if it's not, then it'll just be your typical installer. Once it's done, just go ahead and grab your exe. And whenever you launch it, you're going to be launched into the Xbox 360 CE app. And from here, any controller that you have plugged up will be detected. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in mine. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. All right, it's detected. Now just make sure it works. Yep, looks like everything is working as intended. Okay, so looks good. So now all we need to do is just minimize this down. We're going to have that open in the background. And from here, there's a couple things that you should know. Whenever you run your emulator, you have the option of saving the game normally as you would as if you were playing the game on a PS2, or you can actually save the game state. And you can do that through System Save and Load State. and that can be done for each game. So for example, I'm just going to go ahead and launch up GTA San Andreas. Whenever it starts loading, it should start loading. And if it doesn't, just leave a comment down below and I'll try to help you figure it out. And if it does, then you can go ahead and double click it to full screen, and this will go ahead and bring you into the full screen version of your game. Now, there are a couple keybinds that I have found useful. The tab key will actually speed it up because a lot of older games don't actually give you the option of skipping things, or they have like really shitty like checkpoint systems that make you go through like extremely long dialogues, extremely long cutscenes that you just want to skip, but you're not able to, just like this. So you can use your tab to actually fast forward through. You can see in the top right, I have the little fast forward arrow. Whenever I reactivate tab, it will go ahead and stop the fast forwarding. So as you can see, we've got our perfectly running San Andreas game here with all the normal quirks of the normal game. You can play whatever PS2 games you want with this method, and you can play them in the fast forwarded version if you like. Sometimes that can make some of these games more bearable to play, but for me, I personally playing it on the lower speed, and you can still do everything that you normally would have been able to do in the actual game itself. So for example, we can just go around, play the game normally, do whatever we want to do. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's going to conclude this tutorial on how to set up your PS2 emulator to play whatever games you want. If you have any issues, please feel free to let me know. But before I go, there is actually one thing that I do want to illustrate, and that is the save and load state. So if you double click, you can exit the full screen. And if you go here, you can go to settings, or sorry, system, and you can go to save state, and you can save a state of the game, of the emulator, not the game, the emulator. So what this is useful for is, say you're doing a mission where you know that it's going to be a pain in the ass for you to do something, and so you want to have a quick save, but the game doesn't allow you to have that method. So let's just say that, like, for example, we'll go ahead and save right here. So we're aiming at this person, right? We're going to go ahead and pause. System. We're going to save the game state to one of the 10 states. And then from here, we can go ahead and do whatever we want to do. Oh, this person is really tanky. Okay, so we've killed them. We take their money. Oh no, we died for whatever reason, and that ended up causing a big problem, and we got set back like hours of progress. So we just go to System, Load State, and we can go ahead and load right back to where we were. And this is really useful if you want to create your own like forced checkpoints, if you don't want to like spend a lot of time to try to play the game the way that it was intended. And sometimes, like I said, that can actually make the game more bearable. Most of the time you don't have to do this, though. You can just go with the normal save states that are in the games, depending on what game it is. Anyway, that's going to go ahead and conclude the tutorial. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. If you have any problems with your emulator, please be sure to go down below into the comments and let me know, and I'll try to help you get them resolved. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful day and enjoy your wonderful and fabulous PlayStation 2 emulator.